We have a very distinguished group around the table today. Former Commerce Secretary Carlos Gutierrez was also an advisor to presidential candidate Mitt Romney. Former Republican presidential candidate and Ambassador John Huntsman. Gary Bauer, himself a former presidential candidate, now president of the conservative group American Values. Republican Congresswoman Kathy McMorris Rodgers, the highest-ranking Republican woman in Congress. And our own CNN senior congressional correspondent, Dana Bash. Dan, I'm going to hand this to you, but I want to just ask your guests to give a one- or two-word answer to kind of kick this off. Why did Republicans lose a couple seats in the Senate, maybe a couple in the House, and, of course, the White House?
Thanks, Candy. Well, it's great to be here with all of you, Mr. Secretary.
I would lay the blame squarely on the far-right wing of the Republican Party.
Governor?
No vision. Without a clear vision for the future, you're not going to be able to rally people of all backgrounds.
I think that was a shot at you, so I'll let you answer that.
I was going to say, I think it's due at least in part to folks in our party that seem intent on attacking the fact that we're the conservative party in the United States.
Well, what I saw largely was a status quo election. The voters decided to keep things basically the same with the Republicans in the majority in the House and the Democrats with the presidency in the Senate, but they also recognize both parties have something very important to offer.
Well, Mr. Secretary, since you said something very provocative as a Republican to go after the right wing, as you put it, of your party, I want to put up something that you, Mr. Bauer, said earlier this week. You said Romney was pro-life and pro-family, but I don't think we really engaged in the ad war on those issues. And I think if we would have engaged instead of being forced to be on the defensive, I still think we would have gotten many, many more of what used to be Reagan Democrats. You argue that there wasn't enough discussion of social issues.
Well, look, I think Ronald Reagan defined our party and the road to success for our party. On economics, smaller government, lower taxes. On foreign policy, a confident foreign policy. It's on the side of freedom around the world. But the other ingredient he brought were the values issues. And that's where we got millions of Midwestern and Southern evangelicals, Catholics, et cetera, to leave the party of their birth, the party of their families, and become Republicans. And I think if those issues had been engaged, I'm not saying the campaign should have been run on them. The economy was obviously the major issue. But you can't take a crouching position if you're a member of a party that believes that all of our children should be welcomed into the world, for example, and protected by the law.
Governor, do you agree with that?
Well, I'd have to say that the Republican Party needs to decide whether it wants to win or lose going forward.
And what do you think that would allow you to do?
Well, when we're talking about the party, we're losing. When we're talking about America, we win. So in embrace of all people and articulation of a vision, people don't want to be moralized to. They don't want to be lectured to. They want to live their lives. They want an economy that works. They want jobs and opportunities, schools that educate the next generation. And they want to be left alone. And the sooner that we as a party can get around that and start preparing for the 21st century, which is really the discussion that we need to have, how you prepare for the most competitive years ahead in a highly competitive world.
So be more libertarian on socialism. Is that what you believe?
Yes. I mean, I think the party is truly the party of growth and prosperity. And that's where you get into things like immigration. If we want to be the party of growth and prosperity, we have to be the party of immigration. So we should be leading comprehensive immigration reform. We should be leading the DREAM Act, not the military DREAM Act, students as well. We should be getting rid of things like English as the official language of government. We have to be welcoming immigrants. This is like we're competing for investment capital. We're also competing for human capital, and our party is scaring the heck out of us.
75% of the American people believe that English, sir, is the language of the United States. I don't understand why you would jettison a 75% issue and the idea that somehow that's going to get you votes. But second of all, there's no yearning by the American people for a second pro-abortion party. I mean, we've already got one of those.
Mr. Bauer, if we both done with you, just 1 second, because I want to get the Congresswoman in here. And before I do, I want to show you all and our viewers some images of the Republican Party, particularly on Capitol Hill, where you are. First of all, the image of the Senate Republican leadership. You see that? On the left, white men. On the right, all white men, except you can see, Congresswoman, you can see you in the back there, the only woman in Republican leadership. So that is the image right now with Mitt Romney not winning of the leadership of the Republican Party right now. Is that appropriate?
Well, I don't think it's about the Republican Party needing to become more moderate. I really believe it's the Republican Party becoming more modern. And whether it's Hispanics, whether it's women, whether it's young people, the Republican Party has to make it a priority to take our values, take our vision to every corner of this country, to every demographic group. And I am confident that we can do it. When you look at the exit polls, they were with us. For women, the top issues came back to the economy and jobs. And those are the issues that were on the voters' minds. And I think it's more about the messengers and who's communicating our values to every corner in this country.
Can I just say, I think that the idea of moderate and modern is a difference without a distinction. Because in order to be modern and 21st century, we cannot be extreme right.
Well, it's not about changing our values and our principles, though. It is about bringing them so that people understand them in the 21st century and how it makes us strong.
It's about how we talk about those values and principles. So, as a father of 7, married for 30 years, people can see the way I live my life. I don't need to sit there and rub it in people's faces, for heaven's sake. What we need to do...
Who rubs it in somebody's faces?
Listen, the discussion that this nation wants to have is about solutions. It's not about right, it's not about left, it's not about moderates, it's about solutions to problems that are insolvable these days because we have a Congress that can't seem to get their act together.
But if you're going to run
the sooner that we as a party get around to finding pragmatic solutions and moving us forward economically and from a foreign policy standpoint and recognizing the cultural and the demographic shifts that are profound in this country.
I'm glad you brought that up, because let's talk about the demographic shifts, and this is specifically something I know you want to address, Mr. Secretary. Let's look at just the overall Latino vote, starting with George W. Bush, the man you work for. He got 44% of the Latino vote. John McCain in 2008 got 31%. Mitt Romney last Tuesday got 27%, a precipitous drop. And I just want to continue on this, just focusing in on a couple of the key battleground states. Florida, in 2008, 14% overall of the Latino vote. In 2012, 17%. Colorado, sorry, we have a different one up there. Let me actually go to this. Romney, this is very important, 39%. Obama, 42%. This is the Latino vote in the state of Florida. Colorado, look at that difference. Mitt Romney, 23%. Barack Obama, 38%. So Republicans are simply not doing well. And what I started to talk about before is that the percentage of the Latino vote is going up in those states.
Right. And as I talk to Latinos, the insight that I got was that Latinos were scared. You know, it wasn't the economy and the immigration. They were scared of the Republican Party. And I think fear is what did us in. People were scared of people like Todd Akin. They were scared of Richard Murdoch. They were scared of the anti-immigration talk. They were scared of the xenophobes. And, I mean, it's almost as if though we're living in the past.
Well, you mentioned xenophobes. I just want to, just one thing, and I want to let you guys speak. You mentioned xenophobes. I want you all to listen to Mitt Romney himself during the Republican primary. You were at this debate, I believe, Governor, where he was talking about Latinos and immigration. Watch this.
Then they're going to find they can't get work here. And if people don't get work here, they're going to self-deport to a place where they can get work.
Self-deport is not the kind of term that is, and when you're talking about the tone, draws this group in. Right?
Yeah, they need to know that we care. They need to know that we are pro-immigration. But again, I would come back to... Yeah, and yes, I believe we are.
Oh.
I'm pro-immigration.
Well, you are.
But the values, we have, the Republicans share fundamental values that are in common with the Hispanics. And I believe part of it is putting forward some of the Hispanics that are in our party, the Marco Rubios, and making sure that faces forward.
Look, there's been research done among Hispanic voters about what motivates them on issues. And the fact of the matter is only about 10% of Hispanics cite issues like amnesty and immigration issues and policies as what drives their vote. So, I mean, first of all, let me finish the thought. The research also shows that Hispanics are overwhelmingly pro-life and pro-family. You're suggesting that we drop issues that we might have the best chance to appeal to those voters about.
I haven't talked about those issues. What I'm saying is that the Hispanics I know were scared of the Republican Party.
Do you think that had anything to do with an ad campaign by the president that stoked fear and all kinds of voting blocks?
I think it has to do with our incredibly ridiculous primary process where we force people to say outrageous things. They get nominated.
Mr. Secretary, I have to say, you were the liaison to the Latino community for Mitt Romney. he was the one who used the term self-deportation.
I understand that.
Was that a mistake?
Mitt Romney made some mistakes. I think he is an extraordinary man, and I think he would have made an extraordinary candidate. I think Mitt Romney's comment is a symptom. I think the disease is the fact that the far right of the party controls the primary process.
Would you say that what would bring us all together, and Gary and I worked for a great president, Ronald Reagan, he used language that people could connect with. Words matter. The way that you articulate these sometimes sensitive issues really does matter. There's a certain chemistry involved in a campaign, and we haven't been able to find the elements of that chemistry to get it right in recent elections. The Republican Party, I think, owns the big issues of the day. We ought to be bold. We ought to be confident. If we spend as much time talking about solutions in the future as we did the president's birth certificate, for heaven's sake, we probably would have won the darn election.
Now, Candy started out with the problem. I just want to do sort of a lightning round. In a couple of words, what you think is the solution?
Well, I think we saw in the House, the Republicans kept the majority. We had been bold. We had been putting forward our solutions, whether it was on the economy, the fiscal cliff, how to get Americans back to work. We'd been putting that forward, and we got reelected.
America's not demanding a second liberal party. They've already got a liberal party, if that's what you believe. The Republican Party should be bold and confident in its conservative values, from economics to foreign policy to values.
Okay.
Get our economic house in order and stay out of people's lives beyond.
We need to stand for growth, for prosperity, for jobs, for entrepreneurship, for innovation, for dreaming for a better life, and therefore we need to welcome immigrants. Just one thing. English is the national language of the United States.
Okay.
But the official language of government is a silly, ridiculous thing in the 21st century.
This is going to be a conversation for another time. Fascinating. Thank you, all of you. And Candy, I certainly missed you here, that's for sure.
You all make me sorry. You make me sorry I'm not there. What a great conversation. Carlos Gutierrez, John Huntsman, Gary Bauer, Congresswoman McMorris Rodgers, thank you so much. My thanks to my colleague, Dana Bash. California's Governor Jerry Brown, he knows a thing or two about political resurrection. We talk taxes, mandates, and marijuana next.
America's Choice 2012 is sponsored by